This podcast is brought to you by On Track Studio.
Welcome back to Mind Your Head. In this episode, we speak to Mitchell Leffers, who was an Army veteran that served in Afghanistan as a combat engineer. Mitchell goes into the detail about losing his father at a young age, the PTSD he suffered post-deployment, and being told by doctors that he has almost a 0% chance of ever having children. Despite these challenges and setbacks, Mitch is one of the most positive, inspiring and resilient people I know. Also, just a heads up, this episode contains personal stories of war, suicide and mental health. Mitchell Leffers.
Elliott Hagen.
Welcome to Mind Your Head.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on. I know this is really outside your comfort zone. So, I want to say a big thank you for coming on and having a chat. We met, my memory of where we met was final year of year 12 at Mountain Creek.
Yeah.
Spanish class?
Spanish?
I think it was Spanish or it was Japanese.
I definitely don't. I might have been Japanese.
Yeah, because I remember you coming in with your curly blonde hair and I was the class clown. I was the one telling the jokes. And then you came in and took all the attention away.
Yeah, mate.
And just everyone thought you were the funniest thing ever. Yeah. And that was Monday. And then come the Wednesday, I was like, oh, he's actually pretty funny.
Were you just laughing at me the first time? Yeah.
No, I was like more like, oh, he's not even that funny. Yeah. And then the Wednesday came, I was like, oh, he's actually pretty funny. And then come the Friday, I remember somehow where we went from the Monday to the Friday, you're doubling me on your handlebars, riding back to your house in Mooloolaba.
Yeah, everyone come back to their Mooloolaba.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, how that's so funny in the space of a week. I went from like your enemy. Yeah. Probably too far.
I didn't know I was doing that.
and then all of a sudden, in the end of the week, I think we were just best friends, and I think that's just continued on for the last 15 years. And I remember like meeting all your family and your sister Alex and your mum Di, and I realised obviously early on that your father wasn't around. Yeah, and we never really talked about it, or you never really said too much until we got a little bit older. And yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your dad and what you remember of him?
All right. So I was 11 or 12. I was in year 6, and a few years before that, he got diagnosed with a motor neuron disease, which was slowly turning him into a vegetable. We last saw him, we went to Sydney. My sister and I, we saw him. He moved to Sydney. We're up here. He moved to Sydney to live with his brother, and then my sister and I went down there and saw him. A few months later, Mum just didn't wake us up for school and just told us that he died. Yeah. Actually, it's pretty hard for me to talk about, sorry. I only found out... straight into it, eh? Only found out a few years ago that he actually took his life. Shit. So, I don't talk about it often. So yeah, he took all his medication at once and didn't wake up, which I have no grudge with him about. Yeah. If I was going to turn into a vegetable, I'd probably, we all say that at some point. So, but yeah, he was athletic, played a lot of sport, used to take us to sport, golf, tennis, rugby, everything. So he'd influence us to do that. Loved wrestling, loved watching the yoga girls at 5:30am. I'd come out and he'd be sitting on the couch. I'm like, what are you watching this for? Aerobics, you remember it?
Now you understand.
Yeah. Now I understand. Apparently, I was too young to know like the social side of it and understand everything about my dad. But from what I understand, he loved to travel, bit of an entrepreneur, very social. I've spoken to his best mate. Whenever I run into him, it like pretty much instantly brings me to tears. It's like I see my dad, just the way he talks. It's weird. My sister gets the same, and yeah, he tells us stories and stuff how they used to ride around Sydney and no helmets on their motorbikes, smoking a pack of smokes
barefoot.
A day. Yeah. So from what I can hear, there's some good stories, and obviously miss him a lot. And there's a lot of shadows there. I don't know what's going on. So
how old were you when he passed?
I was 11 or 12. I can't quite remember. Yeah.
And sort of looking back on it now, how much of an effect did that have on you at that age, were you, in terms of, like, say, going to school, your behaviour, could you process it at that age?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So had, I think, about 2 weeks off, flew down to Sydney, went to the funeral, came back, and I remember a good friend was in my class, and I remember her saying to me that, I'm surprised you're back at school so early. And I was like, oh, what else am I going to do, sort of thing. So, but I don't think I was at an emotional intelligence at that age to deal with it, but it definitely brought on other stresses. I then got childhood epilepsy, which they believe was brought on from the stress of losing my dad, because that was, I think, within a year later. And then I was on medication for that, and it was sort of, I feel like I was too young to understand everything, and I just sort of kicked on with it. Didn't talk to anyone about it, didn't talk to mum about it from what I can remember, just bottled it up straight away. And even to now, you can see I struggle talking about it. So.
Yeah. Were you able to, I guess, grieve or express your emotions a bit later in life, or about the passing? Yeah. Yeah,
I rarely talk about him because I'd get very emotional, just straight away. And it wasn't until I was joining the army and I had to see a psychologist, and they asked me about him, and I literally broke down, so intense. And I was like, I walked out and I was like, holy fuck, well, I've just fucked that. I was like, and I've got demons I didn't know I had.
Was this the pre-enlisting to the army?
Yeah. And I was a wreck.
So before then, you didn't think...
Yeah, I just wouldn't talk about it at all. Just would not talk about it. I could hear people talking about him, but could not talk about him myself. So,
do you think it matured you at a young age?
I definitely think into my middle to late teens it did. Early on, when I got epilepsy, I was on medication. They were trying to juggle what medication I should have to stop the fits but not have the side effects of the medication. So actually that period between year 7 through to year 8 or something, is the period there where I was on quite strong medication. Mum said I was bouncing off the walls. I don't actually remember much of that. It's quite a blur, and it's a bit weird, I think, about it. So, yeah, it wasn't until I was later in life that I started maturing from that whole thing. I started to get the urge that I wanted to be a father from a young age, and I started to feel a responsibility for my mum in particular. She's been through a few medical surgeries with her hips and stuff, so a little bit with my sister, but she's very independent.
Yeah. Because that was one of my questions, was did you feel like you needed to step up to be the father role of the family, or? I
think, later on. Yeah, when I was young, I was a baby, so.
Yeah, but later on.
Later on, and I still like to help mum now, and so not as much as you would normally expect a father to be, but I did, in a way, you sort of take on a little bit of responsibility naturally, I think, just being the only male in the house, but. Yeah.
Did it change your outlook on life at all?
Yeah, I think, as I touched on before, I think it has shaped the way that I look at being a father myself, and I think it has encouraged me to want to become a father and be a good father, because he was a great father, and I know what it's like to not have that, and that's all I want to put my attention into.
Yeah.
I want to be that, so, yeah.
And how do you think it affected your mum and your sister? Is it something you guys talked about?
No, not really. Even you asking me, I wouldn't be able to answer for my sister. I think for my mum, she would have felt a lot of responsibility now, being a single mum, doing it all herself.
Yeah.
Got a mortgage. I think at one point there she worked 2 jobs for many years, and paying for school, taking us to sport, taking even friends to sport, and she was doing it all, and she did a good job. So,
and I think you mentioned before, you didn't receive any counselling?
No. I actually I forgot to mention, after I came off that strong medication, I then slipped into pretty severe anxiety at school, and I was scared shitless of breaking a bone or doing something. I was scared. I would not go to school. I'd get to the bus stop, I'd walk back home, and then Mum would have to convince me that nothing would go wrong at school. And it got to the point where she actually went and took me to a psychologist in Budrum private. And this was probably, I don't know, early 2000s. And yeah, he diagnosed me with anxiety, I think. And I had some sit-downs with teachers. I was so scared of teachers. I think that whole losing my dad and then getting epilepsy, then getting anxiety, it was a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah. Where do you think the fear came from? Like fearing to get hurt? Were you trying to...
I don't know. I can't work it out, but I think it might have all been linked in. It did eventually go. By the time I was at Mountain Creek and I met you, it was gone. So, I don't know. I can't tell you. Yeah. So, I just had to get through it.
And the epilepsy, that's still with you today?
No. I had to get that cleared. So, it was childhood epilepsy.
Yep.
So, I had to come off medication. So, you just go cold turkey, I think, in year 9. So, it was like 3 years, I think. And they just cold turked me off the medication and then no seizures.
Yeah.
So then they were like, okay, it's gone. And then obviously with joining the army, I had to go through some pretty intense brain scans and testing and sleep deprivation to make sure I wouldn't have a seizure.
And this might be a bit of a tough question to answer, but do you think the passing of your father changed your direction in life?
Yeah. I still think about that today.
You do?
Yeah, often. Often I think about if my dad was here, how would that influence the decisions I'm making, career-wise, relationship, house, like everything. Yeah, it plays on my mind a lot, and I feel like I'm missing out on that aspect of having that other influence of my dad there. Yeah. So it's, I don't know how to answer that and say how it would be different because, he's not here, and but I do often think that. There's times when I face a difficult decision that we all face, and I go, I wish I just had him to just talk to about life experience. So. Yeah.
What sort of made you head into the military? I mean, we fast forward, we finished school, we all graduate. I did a gap year in the army.
Yeah. I actually tried to go with you guys.
Oh, is that how it happened?
Yeah. Because you two were going, and I was like, you and Ben were going, and I was like, I want to jump in. But then they made me jump through every bloody hoop with the epilepsy. So it took me like nearly 12 months to get all the clearance.
So what was the desire there to...
I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I was in the same boat.
Yeah. Sunshine Coast was a bit different then. Work was not as easy to get. I think getting a trade was considered quite hard unless you knew someone. And I just wanted to set myself up and I didn't know what to do. So I just saw I could make a bit of money there, could make a career, could go away a bit and, shape myself into a man. Like I felt like I'd grown up with my mum and my sister in a female house. I wanted to build myself as the man that I am a bit. So I just sort of wanted... I'm always seem to throw myself in the deep end. And that's what I did, and I just thought, well, if I'm not going to do anything else, I'll just go do that and see where it takes me. Yeah,
and it kind of feels like there's no better place to gain life experience and to grow than the military. I remember, I was 17 when I went in, and I remember getting thrust into the man world pretty early, and I got nurtured when I was growing up.
Yeah,
and I remember because you're underage, you needed your parents' permission if you wanted to leave. So as I got on the bus,
that's right.
Dad was like, "Oh, if you call me wanting out, I want to tell you to go fuck yourself." And he goes, "I'll see you in a year."
He's probably tougher than the army, mate.
Yeah. And he just chucked me on and said, "If you call me, I'm going to hang up on you."
Yeah, he knows what good it'll do.
Yeah, exactly. He knew what I needed to do and how much I was going to get out of it.
Yeah. Well, I think about it. It could have been different because I signed up for the gap year as well.
Yeah.
Because it took so long. I ended up doing the 4 years.
4 years. Yeah.
Which changed the job role and where I ended up altogether.
So what did you go in the army as?
Combat engineer.
Yeah. And explain what exactly that is.
That's like mine clearance, building temporary bridges, anti-tank stuff, like booby trapping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I picked it because I always wanted a trade. I always wanted to learn how to use tools I'd never been taught. So combat engineer could transfer to one of the trades without changing and going back through the combat engineer training. So if you were a rifleman and you wanted to become an electrician, you'd have to go through the combat engineering training to then become an electrician, where I'd already done that. That was my idea behind it. Yeah.
So it could have been an easily transition into a trade.
Yeah, it was the easiest transition.
Was that your long-term plan, I guess, was to eventually get a trade, or were you? Yeah, it was.
It was an idea that I had beforehand, and then forgot about once I got in, because, and then it didn't pop back up again until about 3.5 years later. Yeah, and then I was like, oh, I'm glad I made that decision back then.
So when you joined, I know you talked about it was just a bit of a venture for you, and you wanted to grow. Yeah. When did, I guess, the reality of going to war set in with you, and is that something that you wanted to do?
No, I had no idea. Yeah. It was probably something that I wouldn't have thought I would ever do. Yeah. I joined just for those reasons I explained before, but I got posted to, after my training, I got posted to Brisbane. Shortly after that, they told us that we'd be heading off to Afghanistan in about 1.5 years, and we were to start intense training doing mine clearance. So then we just started training non-stop. So pretty much all the other job roles within a combat engineer got pushed to the side, and I just learnt how to sweep with my arm with a mine metal detector.
Do you reckon you were mentally ready? Yeah. I guess you can never really tell until you get over there.
I don't think you can tell. I think if I was in the mental position and knowledge that I am now, like maturity, I probably would not be ready. But I was 20, 21. I was full of hype. I was a young 20-year-old.
A bit naive and
just wanting to prove yourself and wanting to do it with your mates and not wanting to be a coward or anything like that. I sort of just jumped at the opportunity. I knew what could be involved and whatnot, and
How long was your deployment going to be?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah, 1 day short of 6 months.
Yeah, right.
So they don't have to pay for me to go have a 2-week break in the middle.
Is that right?
Yeah. That's what I heard.
So it's fucking. So you get told you're going away to war for 6 months, or just a day less than 6 months. Yeah. And all the while you've got a wife. You got married? No, you got married after.
I got married afterwards. After, yes.
So you had a partner at home.
Yeah. We were a serious relationship. So, I had a partner at home, and long distance, hard.
Just hard all around.
What do you talk about? Yeah. We had many people who'd done overseas deployments before and had told us, don't ring every day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just do it every
Give it a bit of time.
Give it 4 days. You're just ringing them and you're talking about nothing. You're pissing them off, and you're going to be ringing them at 3 a.m. or something. Yeah. So build up some things to talk about over a few days and call them. And I think that was a good bit of advice.
Yeah. So for everyone who sees war on TV or reads about it, or for people that's never been in the military, can you describe what it was like over in Afghanistan?
I think Afghanistan, when I was there, was very guerrilla war-like. So not as much fighting, like gunfights. It was a lot of IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and just being sneaky. It's a war-torn country. You see stuff everywhere. It's it's a lot of corruption. You've got people just trying to survive. You've got the Taliban trying to stop schools and the Western influence, and even like stop farming and stuff like that in some areas. And they'll tell the kids that they can't go to school because they've put IEDs in the school, and they just don't want that influence over there. And it's compared to the movies, from what I saw. Movies exaggerate a lot, but like everyone's trip's different. So it's not like for us. It wasn't like every day was action. We really had pretty much a month or two there where it was intense for my job role as finding IDs. But you have good days, you have bad days. Yeah, and I'd say you have mostly good days.
Yeah, I asked you earlier, do you think you were mentally ready? And you said you don't really know until you get over there. And was there a moment when you got over there that that it really sunk in with you that you're like, oh, fuck,
Yeah.
I'm in a...
Yeah. We go to the main base, and that's quite safe. It's very well protected, and you've got missile defence systems and stuff. Then we got sent out to another area patrol base like a week later, and I think we'd been there for a few days, and it was in the afternoon, the sun was setting, and we just hear all this gunfire going on. And I was like, what's going on? So we all jump up on this, I can't remember what they're called, just these walls that we've got surrounding the base. And we're watching this firefight, which apparently was between the Afghani army and the Afghani police. And then it goes for about an hour. And I'm just sitting there. It's like I've got a bucket of popcorn watching them having a firefight. And because it's going into night time, they've got the tracer around.
Yeah, it lights up.
You can see them lighting up. And they're just shooting each other. And you're like, is anyone dying? But, like, we're probably a couple of 100 metres away, but I was just like, this is surreal. Like, I'm just watching a gunfight right in front of me. And probably when I first got out to search, I was, my arsehole was puckering. I was shit scared.
Yeah.
My brick commander had been over before, and he just looked so blasé, and turns out he put us out to search in an area where he just thought there'd be nothing, just to get us going. So
just to build a bit of confidence.
Yeah,
and
you got to build confidence,
Yeah.
because you do all this training, but when you get on the ground and you're like thinking, you start thinking about, well, if you get a metal hit, but there's metal everywhere. You got any sort of metal. You got batteries, you got cans, Yeah.
So what were some of the things that you witnessed over there that I guess has forever changed you or shaped you?
We got sent to an area called Kazuristan. The area we had a lot of intel about no metal in these IEDs. So finding them without a metal detector, or with a metal detector, is impossible. You're pretty much just using your eyes, which are your best tool anyway, using your eyes. Previously, from what our knowledge was, there was an outlook with bunkers on it, which the Afghani army used to control. They'd been taken over by Taliban, and we were conducting a mission to retake that outpost and clear it, because the Taliban weren't staying there, but the intel was believed that they had laced the area with IEDs. And the operation was to do a clearance there, and we had reinforcements come in to help with this operation. When you don't have metal in the IED, the best way to find it and the best tool is a sniffer dog. They sniff the explosives, which is something that we really wanted to have with us in assistance, but due to us being quite far away and there was not a large supply of the sniffer dogs and their trainers, we were not able to get one, and the mission pretty much had to go ahead. And we were supposed to head out on a patrol to this outlook, and another group of soldiers were supposed to satellite along on the other side of, picture like a green valley, hills on the side, the outlook's over there. One patrol goes up that side, the other patrol goes up that side to the outlook. We were allocated to the side one, so if there was some sort of contact or they needed like firefight, they needed support, we'd be able to react and join in, sort of thing. And pretty much within an hour of the patrol, the guys heading up to the hill found their first IED. When you find an IED, it's a pretty long process to get rid of it by blowing it up. So they did a really good job, those engineers, and they cleared the first IED. And then we were just chilling out, and we had a lot of people. It was market day. We had a lot of people walking into town and driving into town and whatnot.
Locals?
Locals.
Locals.
So I'm talking hundreds. And they were everywhere. So I felt quite safe, because if there's people there, the locals know where the Taliban have put stuff. And where they're over there doing their search, they found an IED, they've got no one there. And we've got hundreds of people. It's like...
So did you get a bit of a gut feeling?
Oh, yeah, you know that... And we had the intel that area had been... Yeah, and the locals know, and that's why they don't go over there, because they don't want to get blown up. So then, we're pretty much just following along the whole day in line with them. It's called satelliting. And then they found another IED, and then that took longer. And then we were about to head back in because our job was done, and they were going to stay at the outpost for a few days and work on clearing the top of it. And we were like, okay, we'll start heading back. And we're in the big armoured vehicle, the Bushmaster, and I had the headset on at the back, and I was starting to doze off.
Kind of like this.
Yeah, it's kind of like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're really comfy. Well, they're not, but
When you're tired,
they're comfy, and they're nicely air-conned. And we hadn't had armoured vehicles for months, so I was just enjoying it. And yeah, I was in there, and I just hear this explosion, and I look out the window, this little window, and I just see this puff of smoke, not a big one, and I was like, fuck, that's not good. Like, that was not planned for. And we're all like looking at each other going, fuck, what's going on? And then I had the radio headset on, and then it was just mayhem. It just fucking, I wasn't over there, but I've never been in a situation like that. And a bit of the normal radio communication, politeness, everything goes out the window. You're sort of just trying to do all you can. One of our mates, he'd stood on a mine and an ID, and he'd blown up, and he'd lost both his legs. But thanks to one of our other mates, absolutely aced it and was able to get the tourniquets on, which saved his life. And due to where we were, it was over an hour by helicopter back to the first surgical area, operation room. And they say with a major injury like that, you've got the golden hour. Yeah, thanks to...
Which means you got an hour.
You've got an hour, pretty much. Yeah. That's what they reckon. That's your guideline.
Yeah, and how long did it take?
I think it was an hour 15.
Yeah, right.
So they did such an amazing job, everyone involved. He survived, obviously, and he's absolutely smashing it. He's been to multiple Olympics, won multiple gold medals, kayaking. And, I woke up for a few of them, and... yeah, it's just good to see him.
Are you still in contact with him? Or
No, we weren't majorly close. Yeah. You spend months with everyone, but yeah.
So were you able to process that, what you saw, what you witnessed, what you heard at the time? Or I guess to continue on with the mission, did you have to push those emotions to the side and focus on the job? Like, how did you deal with the fear, I guess?
Yeah, my issue came in then... was we got back after this, and we were all a bit shaky. Like,
back to base?
Yeah, back to base. Yeah. From that same patrol, and we were like, holy shit, what the fuck's going on? And you got to think they've got all these other infantry out there, and I think two or three there's 4 engineers in a brick. I think 2 or 3 of them got in the helicopter and flown to the operation area. And so these other guys are stuck out there because you can't go anywhere without being an engineer in front of you searching for IEDs. So... we got briefed, I think it was 9 o'clock at night, that we were going to head out there the next day. We were already shaken. Like, it's a scary thing to think about that you're now going to be going out there and trying to take over from what they've just been through. And it's sort of like throwing yourself in the deep end. And I remember we were rolling around all night. I don't think one out of the 4 of us got much sleep. So I think we were pretty nervous, and it is scary. And I guess once we got going the next day and we started heading out there, I had to... I was so scared and shaken. I felt like I needed a dog to help me. I felt like, although I felt very confident in my job and my ability, I felt like I couldn't detect where an IED is if it hasn't got metal in it, unless it's obviously there. And that was playing on my mind a lot. And obviously the incident the day before was adding a lot of pressure, and I was so nervous that I was like, well, I've got to do this anyway. I'm fucking going in. I've got to accept the situation that I could die. And that's when I started in my brain on the way out there going, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. Okay, accept it. And it's like, it's this thing where I convinced myself that I was going to die and did it within like half an hour, and also convinced myself that I was satisfied that I was going to die. And I think that fucked me up a bit. I think it allowed me to do the job, but it also killed my soul a bit, if that makes sense.
So accepting the fact that you're going to die, did that calm you?
Yeah.
So you could do your job?
It allowed me to calm, which I thought was the safest option. And it's just, it was pretty scary. But like you got a job to do, and you got guys out there, and you got to do it. And we were the ones there to do it. So there's a few things that went on, and I do feel a lot of guilt with the whole how everything played out. And
on that day.
On that day. And so it was accepting that, and then we had to go up there and we started clearing, and we got up to the hill, and we decided that we would research everywhere that they had searched, because we just didn't have a sniffer dog to do it. We didn't find anything when we were up there. We were going pretty slow, and then we insisted that we have a dog. And the next group that came out, I think 4 days later to replace us, they brought the American dog with them who was at that base that we were at. And I think he found 5 or 6 IEDs within an hour. And then that group that replaced us, they then found, I think, 2 more IEDs a few days after.
With the dog?
No, by
themselves, yeah.
And then, like, in that same group that replaced us, 2 Afghani guys stepped on a mine and they got blown up. So the area was just
riddled.
It was riddled.
So the area
and
that you
walked... There was no metal in it. So, like, we had a mine detector, which is ground penetration, but it's fucking hard to use. And it I can't remember how it works. Sends like a sonar thing down and bounces off like rock and sends through a certain sound. So you got to learn it. But like, if you have a big rock in the ground, it can throw it off. It's just a bit hard.
So when you went up and patrolled the next day, where one of your soldiers got blown up, you had to go that same route. Another group went up that same route after you with the dog, and they found 6. Yeah. And then another Afghanis went up that same route and found 2 more.
So not the Afghanis, other Australian engineers.
Yes, they found 2 more. Yeah. So do you think about that and go, I just walked this and I didn't find any, and they've just found 8 after us?
Yeah.
Did you feel like there's
I think 2 of them were found in that path on the way up.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a pretty wide area, probably about, I can't remember, maybe 100 metres wide. So there were multiple tracks you could take in. And I guess maybe we were lucky we didn't go over it. Maybe if we did go over it, maybe we would have found it. I don't know. So, but it was everywhere. And due to what happened, they wanted to send more reinforcements. They wanted to do a huge clearance going the other way after we'd cleared this mountain, this overlook. Sadly, we had an attack on more than 3 of our soldiers, but three guys died. Afghani army guy, he shot them, and we lost 3 guys. And this was, I think, a week later, maybe. Yeah, it's hard to remember. And so we got asked if we wanted to go to the ramp ceremony at the main base, and I think we said yes, we'd like to pay our respects. So they threw us in a Black Hawk chopper, and we went back to the main base, and we did the ramp ceremony and paid our respects, and then we were supposed to get it back on a Black Hawk and fly back out there and get on with it. And they said, we're not flying you, and we're like, what's going on? And what they wanted to do was take heaps of people from the main base, more people, and reinforce where we were and do another clearance operation. We didn't end up going on the Black Hawk. We ended up going on a convoy, which went for a few days, and we were heading back, and I sort of was just a passenger, and I was in with another group of engineers, and they were asking me questions about where we're going, and I was filling them in, and we were cruising. I took a turn up top of the vehicle on the turret, just looking around. I remember getting into this valley area, and I was like, this is pretty fucking suspicious. So I started you get a gut feeling. I couldn't see any locals around. The way that the road had choked us into a point, it was extremely easy for us to be trapped there, being in vehicles. And I just had this weird feeling that something's going on. And anyway, we got probably another K into that, and it got a bit worse. And then we all stopped, and this convoy was led by the Afghani army, and we were to support them from behind them. And us being the engineer vehicle, we were the first in the first in the Australian packet, so we were right behind the Afghani army, and we stopped, and we're like, oh, I wonder why we stopped. And I sort of couldn't see the front vehicle, and we got word that apparently they think there's something in the ground, and we're like, okay. So I'm thinking, oh, my gut feeling might be right here, and then next second, fucking huge explosion, like massive. I was like, fucking hell. And I was already looking out, and just massive. And next thing you see is this dude's fucking body parts rolling down the hill, and I was like, what the fuck's just happened? And they're all running around crazy, and they're getting out the body bags, and I can't remember if it was one or two guys passed away, or anyway, they were all pretty rattled, the Afghani army guys, because they just lost someone. So we pushed on, and then they found another one. We because it was taking so long, we decided to. Some people decided to get out of the vehicle and sit around and like go out of border security and stuff, and so just so they're not sitting in the vehicle all day, and we have a bit better security in case there's an ambush. And I was sitting in the back, and the crew commander, he goes, "Oh, Leff, what's this?" And I was like, "What do you got?" And he's like, "I reckon there's something right in front of the vehicle." And I was like, "What?" So I jumped up there with him, and I was like, "Oh yeah, fucking what?" And it was like 5 metres in front of us, and it was a little divot in the ground. And I was like, that's pretty sus. We've already just found two. And you got to think they found these two at the front of the convoy. We're like in the top third of the convoy. So we've got a few vehicles in front of us. And there was an Afghani dude walking past, and he had a mine detector and like a little digging shovel. And I was like, hey, have a dig, mate. And he's like, here, and like just, the usual, not much English.
The broken English.
Yeah, and I'm like giving him the visual to have a dig, and I was like, be careful though. And like he dug it up a bit, and we could see the yellow, and that's the wipeout containers that they used. We knew instantly, it was an IED, and it was fucking like 5 metres in front of our vehicle, and multiple trucks had already driven over it, and we're like, holy shit. So fucking here we are, like a convoy of like, I can't even remember how many, maybe like 20 vehicles, and we've got fucking IEDs all between us, and we're like, fuck's going on here? So we've had to like then get out, and people conducting searches to clear the vehicles left and right. We're backing up, and we're going forward and trying to make sure that we're not going over anything that hasn't exploded, just in case this time it does. And then by that time, because I went through that, accepted my death, which was a weird thing for me. I just felt so careless, like I felt like I didn't give a shit. Like I just felt like I gave no flying fuck if I died.
Yeah, because that was one of the questions I had was what were some of the things that you really struggled with being at war? And I was thinking, maybe was it trying to keep that communication with your partner back home, and even all your stories you're telling me now, it's getting me on edge. Like, I don't know how every time you went out to do a patrol, it would just freak me out knowing that most of the time there's nothing you can really do that could keep you alive.
Yeah, well, there was at times.
Yeah, at times, like every step I take.
Yeah, I prided myself on it, and I loved it, and like I used to check with the riflemen behind me and see if they were happy with my searching. And my Brit commander taught me a way he said, just jump on it when you're done. Like, if you think you've found something and you think might have something you're digging, you decide, no, it's not nothing. Don't step over it, jump on it. And he's like, you'd prefer to die yourself than watch someone else jump on it or step on it and die. I was like, yeah, that's fair chat. So
you did that?
Yeah, I did that, and it was a great bit of advice, because it gave me clarity that I would never have a situation where I'd fucked up or missed something and someone else would take the brunt of it. So it was always, if I was confident there was nothing there, I should be confident to jump on it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And yeah, the riflemen, they loved it. They were like, mate, I love that you jump on it. I was like, well, okay, I'll keep doing it. And that was a bit of advice from my Brit commander from his trip, and it was good. So, was
the army training, could they prepare you mentally? It's hard to say like before you left, but when you're over there, could they have prepared you mentally for what you were going to experience and witness?
No, I don't.
Or there's nothing that they.
I don't think so. I think everyone's trip is different. I also think every person's reaction to things are different. I feel a lot of guilt. That was a big issue for me. I don't think you could be prepared. I think we were well prepared, but I think it comes down to the person that they are. I think I'm quite empathetic. I would say I'm a bit emotional, and I overthink things a lot, or I think deeply about things. And just the person I am, with the things that I experienced, resulted in me becoming very obsessed. My thoughts were very obsessed with what had happened on my return, and I became so obsessed with it and would start blaming myself and not seeking help or anything like that. So it was a bit of a journey.
How different was the Leffers before you left to the Leffers that returned home?
Very different. I didn't feel different initially. I felt like I had been through a lot of a life experience by the time I was 21. I was like, yeah. But then as time went on, months, I would think about things non-stop, obsess over it. I didn't want to be in the army anymore. I started wishing that I'd died overseas. It got so repetitive and it went on for so long, and I thought there was nothing wrong. And until I started hating myself, and I was like, I just wished that I was the Leffers before I joined the army. Fuck. Yeah. Obviously, there's some things, and out of respect, I didn't want to mention everything that went on overseas, but just the way that things went, in my brain, I built this thing that I felt guilty for it, and I hated myself, because I didn't do anything about it for years. Like I returned and I transferred from engineer to electrician, and I was like, maybe that'll be what I need. I need to get out of what job I was doing and go do a trade. So I did that and I got accepted. I got married in that time when I returned, and I tried to fix what was going on in my brain by just continuing to do what I was doing. External things. Yeah. And just pushing along with the career and thinking that would fix it, but it didn't fix it. And I'd just get worse. I was locking myself in the bathroom. I was getting very angry a lot of anger, not wanting to face reality, just doing what I had to do, bare minimum. And then it wasn't until I moved to Sydney and things started getting worse. I kept going. I kept thinking this. And my wife at the time, who's now my ex, she wanted me to go see someone, and I didn't want to go see someone because I felt it was weak to go. I felt like because I physically didn't get hurt, I was not warranted enough to be suffering to have these thoughts. And I just sat on it. I reckon, what was it, 3 years I sat on it? I was so worried about the army finding out. I was so worried about other people finding out.
Finding out about what?
That I wanted to get help. I wanted to seek help. So I went out on my own limb and started seeing a psychologist twice a week at the start, and then once a week. That made me go through my story, which was extremely emotional. Because I was seeking treatment, which they do exposure treatment as well. And then I was going home and going to work without anyone knowing. It was making the situation worse. So me trying to hide it from everyone in the army was making it worse because I just had to continue. And I remember going out bush, and we were just doing a bush exercise down in Sydney with all the trades, and I was walking near a cliff, and I wanted to jump. Yeah, I wanted to jump. I wanted to kill myself. And I was starting to think of ways how to do it. I could see this was not good, obviously. And I was like, fuck, I need to do something. Like, I had a good mate in there, and I spoke to him, and he was like, okay, we need to do something. And pretty much they told a few people, they pulled me out of the bush exercise, and they basically, then they knew I had to tell them everything. And I was in such a bad way. The marriage just fell apart as well. So I was in Sydney with my 2 dogs, and my ex had moved out temporarily, and this had all just happened. And pretty much because of my suicidal wanting to commit suicide, they wanted to put me in a home or whatever, and I was like, fuck, can't do that. They allowed me leave to go back home, Sunshine Coast, and I pretty much just dropped everything, took my dogs, and went to the Sunshine Coast, because if I was living with someone, I didn't have to go in to be watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did that, which was good that they had that option. I pretty much just left everything. I left the furniture, left the job. I was just gone. I had 1 year left in my trade, and it didn't matter to me. It was like life and death decision, and I had to make a change. I feel like as humans, we never make changes until we get fucking rock bottom.
Pushed to that.
We get pushed to the edge.
Breaking point,
and then we make the change. And I feel like that's what happened. And for me, I'd tried psychologists, I'd been psychiatrist. I just had these, because I left it for so long, I was so deep in these thoughts. I was like, I need to get out of here. And I was like, I think I need to leave. I need to leave the army. And yeah, I made that decision when I was on the Sunshine Coast, and that's when I linked back up with all you guys. I feel like I'd broken away. I'd lost who I was, the pillars who made me who you guys knew. I felt like I didn't want to show myself, or I just wanted to be my old self, and I didn't feel like that at all. So, yeah. And then moved back, and I still had some really dark days when I moved back, and was still thinking about how I could take my own life. And I made a promise to my dogs. I was like, if they're here, I won't do anything, because yeah. Dogs are fucking good, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, one kept their promise.
Yeah.
Do you think? Obviously, it's what you experienced and the person that you are and how it affected you. Do you think about the fact that you were forced to accept the reality of death to do your job over there, and were you able to switch that off as soon as you came home?
No.
Did that contribute to?
No, when I came back, I was like, "What's this that everyone always talks about? You come back from overseas and you got to civilise yourself again or something?" And for years, I would look at people, because part of my job was to be very observant. Sorry, I had to observe everything: the ground, the environment around me,
the attention to detail.
The attention to detail. It took me years to stop looking at people like that, especially when I was in a shopping centre, and it would cause me to hate going in big public places. It was a weird experience, which I've gotten much better with. I still get a bit overwhelmed sometimes when it's a big,
large groups and stuff.
Yeah. Like shopping centres are fucking worse. But I don't assess things anymore. I was assessing it. It took years. I feel like I trained for it for years. It then took years to untrain.
Yeah,
which I think is part of it.
Something that you haven't touched on, but I think it's important, is that you and your ex were also going through IVF. trying to have kids.
Yeah. So
and that's a battle on its own, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a slippery slope. Which I pretty much came back. We got married and we were trying for kids, and nothing was happening. So I did a sperm test, and it came back saying I wouldn't be able to have kids naturally. I still had little kickers in there, but yeah, we'd have to do IVF. So I did IVF and did it for years. A lot of money, a lot of stress, and I think when they're very optimistic when you start IVF, they always, it's like they fill you with hope, and I now relate it to gambling. Like in a way, that's how it makes you feel. That's I feel like it's the same mechanisms that make you come back. You invest all your time, all your money, all your energy, especially for the female, has a lot of things they have to go through during the IVF process, where the male just fucking does his load in a cup and job done. But the female goes through an awful lot, the drugs as well, and it's very draining. And all you want is this kid. And everything you've saved for, you put into that, you get the results negative. Okay, my whole fucking life's about making this happen. It has been. Let's go again. And you go again, and you're sort of just hoping for that big jackpot. That's why I think it can be a huge mental drain if you're not ready for it, because of the possibility of it being long term, like years to try and conceive. And it can be a massive pull on relationships and people. It's really hard, and I don't think it's spoken about a lot. And I do believe it has that same feeling of gambling. And after years of that and not having any success, absolutely none, I'd accepted. By the time my ex and I had broken up and divorced, I'd accepted that I wouldn't have kids. It was hard for me to accept. And then plus also before that, I had to go through the journey of finding out that I didn't have the basic ability of an animal as a male to produce kids without assistance. That was a big thing to get over when I was only, 22, 23.
That developed a lot of insecurities, in yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I joined the army to make myself a man and to make something of myself, set myself up and keep going, and I just fucking...
It's such a stressful thing to go through just by itself, but having the weight of, I guess, PTSD as you came back and dealing through all that, it's just unimaginable what the mental space that you would have been in.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't a good few years.
Yeah.
I think I can look back on it and go, no fucking wonder I lost it. And I guess being young, I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know what I needed until I hit rock bottom. And then I made big changes.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I'm out of it. I'm not completely out of it. I still struggle with things here and there, and but nowhere near as bad as I was. And I'm not suicidal at all. So
yeah. So when you you got the divorce and then you moved back to the sunny coast, and I remember you were staying with your mum, and I was living by myself, and I was like, come move in with me.
Yeah.
And I had just broken my leg playing footy.
Yeah.
So I was in a moon boot for 3 months, then pretty much couldn't play any rugby for a year almost. Yeah, it was pretty much a year, and I said I was in a pretty shit mental space too, and I was like, why don't you just come move in with me, and we can just be in a shit mental health space together.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever told you this, but that year, I think it was almost 2 years. It was almost 2 years that we lived with each other, and it was. I look back on it now, and it was hands down one of the funnest and funniest years of my life.
Yeah,
it's weird to look at because we were both struggling in our own ways, and we were both sort of like leaning on each other a bit, and we didn't talk too much, but I think just the presence of being around each other and just having the ability to take the piss out of each other and laugh. Yeah. I look back on it now, and I felt like it went so quickly, and it was one of the funnest times. And I know that it really helped me get in a better headspace.
Yeah. Oh, it was massive.
Yeah.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
Takes two to tango, baby.
Yeah. It was playing Kelly Slater pro surfing.
Yeah.
All hours.
Nothing else.
Nothing else.
That was so good. And I was the heaviest I'd ever been. I was drinking. So when I moved back, I was drinking 6 to 10 beers a night. You would say I was an alcoholic, and I was just trying to numb the feeling. And I went from like 77 kilos up to like 87, and you got me going to the gym as well. And it just changed my outlook. It's what I needed.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about before. I lost those pillars. You helped me bring it back, and just that environment, and then working on myself, as simple as just going to the gym 5 days a week. And starting to feel better about yourself, and starting to see a change, and just completely disconnecting from what I'd done for 8 years. So
did you turn to the bottle?
I was drinking a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, I was drinking too much, and I love a beer, but that was unhealthy drinking. Yeah, I just wasn't doing anything. I just was suicidal, and it's just a repeat thing every day. And I guess I felt like I was like, I'm never going to love again. I've fucked up in the head. Like, I'm suicidal.
I remember we having those conversations.
Yeah. I can't have kids. Like, I don't even have the drive to live. Like, I got no hope. Part of my recovery had to change what I wanted out of life. And it was hard. I still don't think I had it. I'm very fortunate now as we're talking, but I wasn't completely able to change what I'd always desired. I'd always wanted to be a dad, and I wanted to be a dad at a young age, and that might have been because my father passed away when I was young, and I don't know. I just saw worth in it.
Is there still lifelong effects from your time in the army?
Yeah, not as bad, but I'm very scared of slipping into a bad headspace, and I really try and do everything I can to not allow that to happen. Even leading up to this podcast has made me re-go through a lot of emotions and retell the story, which I haven't done in years, and that was hard for me. And I often feel like I've lost a lot of resilience. Like, my walls are very low. Like, I feel like I can't take much before I start slipping into a headspace, which I believe could be a slippery slope. And
It's strange you say that, because I think you're one of the most resilient people that I've ever met from all the things that you've gone through. And for you to say that you don't think you're very resilient.
I don't think anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I do think I used to be resilient, and that was a double-edged sword. I think because I thought I could do everything is why I didn't seek help for so long, or try and make a change, or ignored it, because I thought I could just get through it. I'm just very careful now, I think. I like to juggle my work and not overwork myself, and try and spend time with my family, and
it seems like you're very
with my friends.
Yeah, you're very cautious of your mental health space and what you need to do to stay in it.
Yeah.
Do you regret your time in the army? Are you someone that regrets?
I did.
You did?
I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
I wish I never joined.
Still?
No. I believe everything I've done, everything I've been through shapes me to who I've been, to who I am now, and I think I learn more about myself every time I come across a hard situation, and I don't know, I'm just maturing. I've just learnt a lot. I've been through a lot mentally, and I know how to process things now, and even when I help my partner with things and whatnot, and I just sort of notice that, maybe I have learnt quite a bit, and there is a positive sign once you get through the bad. The positive is that you can help other people, and you can even help yourself.
Yeah.
And you understand. It's
nice.
Someone's in a hole. You jump in there with them because you know how to get out.
Do you feel like when you moved back to the Sunshine Coast and did you feel like you were lost in what direction you wanted to go in life, or did you feel like a fresh start and you could do anything that you wanted to do?
No, it's career-wise.
Yeah, career-wise, life-wise, did you see the doors, or did you... Were you in a headspace that you're thinking, what am I going to do?
Well, initially I was still fucking bad, but then I started to see the light in my life change, and I could see that I made the right decision. I felt like the decision to drop everything that I'd worked for and to come out, and it was the right decision to move back to the coast and reconnect with those pillars that is what I felt like I lost.
And how old were you when you came back?
27, 28.
Yeah.
So, and I just started doing again what I did prior to joining the army, and hanging out with all my friends and whatnot. And
because I noticed a huge change in you when you met a girl called Whit.
That was good timing. That was I as I said, I never really dropped the fact that I believed I couldn't have kids, and I believed I couldn't love again. And then I met Whit, and that was a game changer.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So I felt like at the time I wasn't doing much. I was treading water. You asked me just before about if I saw the light with life or career. Career I didn't. And over time it started to affect me. And Whit came into my life, and it was the exact thing I needed, and she's the absolute best, and it completed me, and then we've had an absolute unreal few years now.
Yeah, it's funny because I never thought that I would meet someone as unique and weird in a good way as you. And then I met Whit.
Yeah.
And normally you're saying little weird jokes, and some of us are like, yeah, good one, Leff. But when you two are together, you said something weird, and then she'll come back and say something weirder than you. Yeah. And I'm looking at Whit going, fuck. What's going on here? I love that. And did you have those insecurities, I guess, from your past relationship, the fear of not being able to have kids, and I guess not being the man that you sort of wanted to be?
Yeah. And not wanting to love again.
Yeah. How did that affect your new relationship with Whit?
She broke down those walls pretty quick, eh? I think I brought it up with a second date. That's how much, I guess you could say, insecurities. I didn't want to bait someone in that I liked if that was a journey that they weren't wanting to go on. I didn't want to go on the IVF journey again because I knew the toll that it took. So I think second date, I just... Yeah.
I
was like...
can't have kids.
I can't have kids. And she's just like, okay.
What is she, 21?
And she was... Yeah, she was 21. And she's just like, that's fine. And she just was an absolute blessing. Like, I can't explain it. And I was like, what?
No, you don't understand.
I was like, how can you say that? And then it was just like an unconditional love. And we just started hanging out heaps and heaps, and we had a wild first date. I don't know.
Yeah, what'd you do? Go to karaoke?
Yeah, no, not karaoke. I don't sing, mate. I picked her up, and I saw her car at the front and it said Whit 98 on the number plates, and I was like, I got out of the car. I was like, are they your number plates? Didn't even say hello. And she's like, huh? I'm like, are they your number plates? She's like, yeah. I'm like, are you born in 98? She's like, oh, maybe. When are you born? I was like, nah.
88. Nah.
I was like, fuck. I was like, what's going on here? I was like, I'm born in 1990. And she's like, because we met through friends of friends who are
your age.
Yeah,
our age.
Yeah, our age. Or maybe even like 1 or 2 years younger.
Yeah.
And she's like, I thought you were 27, 26. I was like, I thought you were 27, 26. And she's like, how old are you? I'm like, 30 this year. And then she's like, I'm 21 this year. I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah. And where'd you guys go?
Very mature for her age. We went to Sneaky Baron, had a few drinks, and then we ended up having a few too many. We decided to leave the cars there. We went over to Soul Bar, and then I ended up eating a pizza off some dude's table. Then he left there, and we just thought I was fucked up. And we had more drinks, and we danced, and then I was like, let's not finish it there. It was a Sunday, so we jumped in a cab and went to O'Malley's and Moore Bar, and then, ended up having like a big night and going till like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then, the rest is history.
Yeah. It seems like from the very beginning you were able to be very vulnerable with her.
Yeah, and so was she. So I think that was an important part of building our relationship. And I'd learnt a lot from my previous relationship, my marriage. Yeah, there was some key things which I took into the new relationships, which I think are still key. And I believe that you want to try and keep your individual self, because that's the person they fell in love with, that's the person you fall in love with. So I want to encourage you to keep doing those things that you do before I met you, because that's what makes you you.
Yeah.
And that's something I lost, not due to my ex or anything, but I lost that. And I've spoken about that. I completely lost that throughout the years. I lost who I was, and that was very important to me. And yeah. And
then you fast forward a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then you had that unexpected surprise of finding out that Whitney's pregnant.
Yeah.
What was your initial reaction to that?
Initial reaction?
Yeah.
We're in Yarraman, so Whit's a teacher, and she came in at like 6 o'clock, and I was sleeping in. She woke me up, and she's like, look at this, and showed me the pregnancy test. And I was like, what's that? And she's like, look at it. I'm like, I am looking. And she's like, it's positive or whatever. Like, I'm pregnant. And I was like, it's fucking broken. And rolled over and went back to sleep. I was full denial. I can't have kids. That's how my mindset was. And then I'm laying in bed going, what just happened? And I'm like, I'll just go back to bed. And then I can hear Wet rings, like one of her best mates. And I was like, she's full quid on this. So I was like, what? So I woke up and started getting like my heart going, and the whole experience, like the whole day, and then the months following was so surreal. Like,
could you believe it? Like,
no, could not believe it
until
I was very worried. Like, they talk about the 12 weeks is safe part, and all these scans and stuff. So I was reserving, a part of me just in case it was too good to be true.
Yeah, you weren't that hopeful. There's a part of you that were going.
I was like, someone's
going to be up.
Something goes wrong here. But just telling family and friends, and it was unreal.
Up until that moment, you spoke about your insecurities of not being able to have kids. Up until that moment, and when you found out Whit was pregnant, did those all insecurities leave you? That, hang on a second, I'm able to have children?
Yeah, I actually had I did another test a few years ago, and it came back, and it was actually pretty good. And the doctor said I could conceive naturally, but I didn't believe her. I went through so many IVF things and didn't even have a snag. So it did stick with me that I wasn't too sure if I could still have kids. I was wigging out a bit, but I think I just got engulfed in the situation, and it was a life-changing, mind-changing thing. I can't explain it. It was just, surreal.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. I believed so strong that I couldn't have kids.
Yeah. And what sort of struggles did you two face? Because I know you both accepted that kids maybe wasn't a part of you guys' future, and then all of a sudden she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, was it, what do we do?
Yeah, well, we were living out west.
Yeah.
I was teaching, and it was like, what do we do? And then, so we moved back to the coast, and then that was Whit's first year of teaching. So she was keen to get going on start a career off and, start making some money after putting herself through uni. And working jobs and paying rent and not having much help. So she did very well, and then she's finally making money where she can buy things for herself, and she's about to be leaped back out of it. So it was very hard, and she felt like she was too young, ideally. Like, we had spoken about having kids a few years later, but like you don't turn your back on a blessing. So, but we were both still very happy, and it was a big life changer. Yeah.
And what have you learned about each other since becoming parents? Anything new? Or just reinforce what you already know about each other?
A lot of reinforcing.
Yeah.
You get put in a lot more stressful situations, but I respect her and love her a whole lot more. Like, watching her be a mum, and she's such a good mum, and it's, yeah.
Is there a secret to you guys' relationship?
Don't go to sleep with a resentment. It's no good. Talk things through, I reckon. Patience, and comes back to that, keeping your individualism. Like, yeah. If Whit
sticking to your pillars.
Sticking to your pillars. If Whit wants to do something, it's harder now with a kid, but I've got to enable her to be able to do that. Yeah. And she shouldn't ask me. Yeah. If she wants to do something, she does it. Yeah. You got to keep those pillars there.
You at your wedding, when you were 21, you did a really beautiful speech to your mum.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
And in that speech, you just thanked her for always being present in your life, and always being there for not only the big moments, but for all the little moments that she was there with you, and being a single parent with you and Alex. And you just thanked her so much for always being there for her. And what you put it down to was having that unconditional love that you have for your children. We didn't have kids. I still don't have kids, but you didn't have kids then, so you can appreciate it, and you can be really grateful for it. But unless you have kids yourself, I don't think you quite understand that unconditional love. Yeah. Now that you are a father to a little baby girl called Benny, do you now understand that unconditional love that you were speaking to your mum about? Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, my mum is such a brilliant mum. She did so well raising us kids and giving us the best opportunities that she could, and she's influenced me, and that's pushed onto me, I believe, and I've learnt so much from her, and it's shaped me to who I am, and I can definitely understand it. Like, I feel like my life revolves around the family now. Like, I can't wait for sporting events. And
it's from my point of view, it's really beautiful to see, because I know for so long you've wanted to be a dad, and since I've known you, I knew you would be a great dad, and it was really hard to see you go through that period in your life when you moved back in with me, and I was really worried about you and your future, and I was just hoping that the ending would be like something like this. Yeah. And every time I come over and I see you and Whit and little Benny there, I'm just like, it really makes me happy to see you and your little family, and I'm just really proud of you.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
That's right. During as long as I've known you, you've never ever played the victim role. You've never wanted sympathy. You never wanted special treatment. Why is that?
I don't know. Maybe the way I was brought up, but I think I was quite resilient when I was younger, and I probably still am in a way. And I believe that people can help you, and people and relationships are great assets. But at the end of the day, the person that has to make that meaningful change is you, not anyone else. People can help you and their tools, and it's no one else's fault about how your life plays out. And no one else is more invested in your life than yourself. So you've got to make those changes, and I think that's I've been through that, and I've had to make those decisions. Yeah. So.
What are you passionate about?
Passionate.
And we spoke about this the other day, and I'll let you answer it, but we're talking about what Leffers is passionate about, and so often I think we correlate passion and job.
Yeah. That
you've got to do a job that you're passionate about, and if you aren't, you know, your life's not there.
You don't have a passion.
You don't have a passion.
Yeah.
And for years I've thought like that.
Yeah.
For years and a lot of people think that, I've got to find a job, and it's great if you've got a job that you're passionate about. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then you gave an answer.
Yeah.
And what are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about friends.
Yeah.
It's real corny saying it, but I genuinely think I am. I have learnt the value of good relationships and friends, and how important they are in your life, and how much they play a role in who you are, and even watching your friends achieve things, and then you helping them, and it's very rewarding, and it takes time and effort like any other relationship, and you put the time and effort in, and it returns it to you, and it makes your life. It adds value to your life, a lot of value, I think, and I think I learned when I didn't not be friends with you guys, but I moved away, and it was hard to keep contact, and rekindling that like nothing ever happened was evidence to me that how important friends are. They enhance every situation that you can be in. So career wise, home life, not so much. No.
Do career wise as in relating back to your father and
this is where I often look back at my father. So I often feel lost on what I want to do, and Wit's helped me so much, and I've since leaving the army I've done like programming course, did 2 years of uni, which I think I mainly just did to prove myself that I could do uni, and then I've worked like 3 different jobs. Now I'm doing woodworking, which is really good, but I still always just never like. I feel like I don't know. Yeah, if I did know, then I wouldn't be.
But I think a great learning thing from you is that you're still searching.
Yeah,
I think that's great. That you might find it tomorrow, you might find it in 10 years. My dad's 67.
Yeah.
And I had a chat to him about identity and who you are, and Dad's like, I'm 67, I'm still finding things out.
Yeah.
So I think it's a never-ending thing.
Yeah, yeah.
A nice goal to keep sort of reaching for. Yeah. Your deepest fear?
Slipping into a bad headspace.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mentioned it before, and I think that's my biggest fear. Even the other week I had a bit of an episode which my partner helped me with, and I was getting these weird things at work where everything it feels weird, like time would speed up and sounds would really go really fast. Anyway, it was quite weird. It would last 5 to 15 minutes, and I'd just stand there like fucking. I'd continue working, and I'd be like, "This is fucking weird." Like, and I've had them before, but I got heaps of them for a few weeks there, and I started thinking there's something wrong with my brain, and like I started putting things together, high stress, the depression, PTSD that I had, and then I think about I've had some serious concussions when I was younger, and then I had epilepsy, and then I'm looking up this thing and it sounds like I got Alice in Wonderland syndrome, and I'm like, fuck's going on with my brain? Like, am I like? And I have like moments like that where I think something's going on, and that's my biggest fear. Not necessarily having something wrong with me, but slipping into a mental state where I get in a snowball, which I can't get myself out of. So, and that's pretty much why I take Thursdays off. I only work a 4-day week, and I spend that day with my daughter. So, which is
what you need.
It's what I need.
Yeah.
So hopefully the interest rates stop going up, so I can keep doing that.
Positive traits. I always like to turn back to some of the real intense, I guess, negative things that have happened to us. I always try to find positive things that has come out of it. your time in Afghanistan and being in that war zone and seeing the locals live in that war zone, did it make you appreciate everything that you've got back home and the life that you've got back home?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I remember one day we cleared a school and these kids and parents were saying, the school's been, the Taliban have put IEDs in the school and we want to go back there just to use the soccer fields. And we looked down on the soccer fields and I was like, that's, you just think about it, that's so fucked. Like, and like they cut off water supply and no medical, no help, like rape of men and like little boys, and it's just it is not a nice situation, and we are very lucky.
Yeah.
The soccer field didn't end up having anything on it.
Yeah.
And that day I sat up there and used to smoke a Cuban cigar after my patrols, and I just sat there and watched the kids play on the soccer field.
Yeah. But it makes you, I guess having a family of your own now, I guess it makes you grateful for everything.
Yeah.
That you do have, and that's something that I practice. Is sometimes we get really bogged down on all the big issues in life, and sometimes we overlook the little things that we take for granted, and just practicing gratitude, and it really has a huge effect on me. What do you think is important for people to know about your journey?
I don't think it's not over, but as I feel like I hit pretty rock bottom. I feel like there could have been a little bit more rock bottom, but I was pretty close. And looking back on it, I've learnt that you can learn so much from everything you go through. And sometimes it's as simple as remembering when you were happy and just recreating that life around yourself. And that's what I did. And then now I'm able to see things in a better perspective, in a better headspace, and I'm able to use those downtimes to my advantage. And now I've learnt so much from it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Love it. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I've got a closing tradition of the show where I don't ask the last question. I get a close friend, a family member, a loved one to send in a question for the guest. So I've got 3 of the most important women in your life. First up is your mum died, and I think we've obviously touched on it, but I don't know if you want to elaborate any bit more. But your mum's question to you was, how did the death of your father affect you at the time, and how has it affected you since?
I think at the time was more physical things, like if they believed that was the thing that caused the childhood epilepsy. But I would say now it's more about when I'm lost, lack identity of myself, is when I wish that he was present.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Your older sister, Alex, she asked, where do you draw your strength from in the tough times?
My loved ones,
yeah.
100%. I make promises to myself and I draw off them. So my sister being one, and she helped me through some tough times massively, even when she was having tough times with 2 kids and her own and other family issues going on. So yeah, look in the mirror, sis.
So you probably guess who this last one's from. This is from Whitney, your partner. She wrote in, fatherhood. You lost your father. You wondered about the father that he was. You lost your faith in children. You wondered what sort of father you could have been. Now you're a father yourself. One day, painfully, our kids may be left without you. What do you hope to give them through the gift of fatherhood? What mark do you want to leave on their memories of their father? I ask you this because having you as a father is simply the greatest gift our kids will ever receive. My promise to you is, as their mother, is to always push you to be a father you long for or to be. And with that promise, I hope to never let you experience another day wondering. Fatherhood, it's yours.
I want to be the father that is always there. Always encouraging what they want to do and just allowing my daughter to be who she is, and her knowing that I'll always be there for her and I'll always support her in whatever she does. And
Mitchell Leffers,
yeah,
thanks for coming on.
thank you, Elliott.
I appreciate it. It was nice.
Yeah, well, yeah. It was good.
It was good?
I was very nervous. So,
No, you did well. I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, I did get a bit emotional.
Yeah.
But
When?
No, there's no tissues, Danny. What are you talking about?
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Elliott.